Hello and welcome to Leviathan News. Today is August 11th. We got a really special guest. Cam Etz is here to talk about the most recent rollout of FX Protocol. And we've talked about FX Protocol before. It's a novel solution to split off a stable-like token away from ETH so that people can hedge, and then also people can go leverage long if they want to. So, hey, welcome to the show, Cam Etz.
Hey guys, how's it going? Thanks for having me on today.
Mm-hmm. So I'm taking a look at the webpage for FX Protocol right now. And over the last couple of days, because it's been like, what, 4 or 5 days since you've launched?
We launched last Thursday, yeah.
Yeah. And so you've gotten 3/4 of the cap filled so far. So 700 out of 1,000 ETH. And what's been some of the results or metrics that you've seen post launch?
Yeah, so like I said, we launched last Thursday. It's been pretty interesting to sort of watch sort of the protocol grow, especially kind of in this market where things have been sort of sideways. But people are interested in it, as you can see. So right now, the protocol is in mainnet beta mode, which basically means that the protocol just exists as itself. There's no liquidity for FETH or XETH anywhere on any dexes. You can either mint FETH or XETH from ETH or staked ETH on the protocol webpage itself. But what's been interesting is sort of the metrics in terms of sort of the share of FETH and XETH. As you can see on the web page there, it shows that FETH total supply is about 60%, and XETH is about 40% of everything. So you're getting about a little over 2x leverage on XETH, which is pretty good for folks that want to go degen ETH right now. And FETH is holding its, if you want to call it a dollar peg, it's kind of holding that very steady ever since launch, mainly just because ETH itself has been a stable coin for the most part in this market. But as you can see up at the top, we also have the rebalance pool, which allows people to stake their FETH and earn staked ETH rewards. And up until yesterday, it was at about 11% APR, but it looks like we had some folks ape in last night, and so it's brought it down to a little less than 4% APR. But that'll fluctuate over time as we bring on liquidity pools where people can sort of like send FETH out into the curve universe and get rewards that way. So that'll probably come up over the next couple of weeks once those we'll be launching a Frax base pool and a CRV USD liquidity pools on Curve. So you just keep an eye out for that. But mostly the protocol's been working fine even without liquidity available because it is a self-sustaining system. Because people can get rewards on their FETH and of course XETH. You can mint and redeem that anytime and use that. And XETH is basically since Genesis last Thursday, XETH is profitable at the moment. So it's kind of been pleasant to see so far, and we're kind of hoping that things keep going well.
Question for you then. So this APR, this is not from any emissions from like the FFX token. This is just the from the activity in the pool.
This is just those are just staked ETH emissions. So when you mint FETH or XETH, you can zap in with ETH or use straight staked ETH, and everything, the entire reserve that backs the protocol is Lido's staked ETH. And so of course the emissions from that are going to half are going to our treasury, and then half are going to this rebalance pool. So everybody that's putting their FETH, our stablecoin like product, into this pool is basically just collecting staked ETH rewards through this. So that's what you're seeing there. Yeah, you're correct.
So how do you tell like where the leverage balance is? So like right now it's like 2.
Yeah, if you go back here and you look on there you go, right there, the next to the XETH box there, it shows it's at about 2.28.
So if I came and minted the last 250 ETH as the X ETH, how would that change the leverage dynamics?
It would bring it down. I couldn't tell you the exact proportion off at the moment because I don't have my calculator up or my spreadsheet. But as more XETH gets minted into the system relative to FETH, it would decrease the leverage. And so XETH is the leverage depends upon its relationship to it's the ratio to FETH. So they kind of work one versus the other. And if you were to go and like as you said, mint the last 250 ETH into FETH, it would increase the leverage on XETH even more because that ratio changes. So that's
Right.
sort of our FX invariant.
Right. So do you think that it'll change, like when we dip in the market and there's much less demand for XETH, then your leverage that you get from XETH goes up, and when everybody's wanting leverage near the top to go even higher, then the amount of leverage is naturally going to decrease?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of hard to say how it will all play out. We do have some safety modules in place to basically encourage people to mint XETH. Should the collateral ratio drop below 130%. But it's based on all of our studies, it's shown that basically there's always, from I want to say like 2019, there's always been like open interest, where there's been shorts or longs are paying shorts basically to go long on ETH. So it will be interesting to kind of see how people look at XETH and how it gets absorbed. It's basically sort of a DeFi primitive because it's non-liquidatable leverage, and so you can mint some and just toss it into a cold wallet and forget about it for however long you want or whatever, and it'll still be there. So it'll be interesting to see if it becomes a trading product, if people will adopt it as sort of a long-term exposure. I'm sure it'll be a little bit of everything, but it's kind of up to the community to decide how it gets utilized and how it will turn out. But we're excited for it.
That's interesting. Yeah.
Is there any thought to do this for other tokens beyond just ETH? Like I could imagine you could do it for like Wrap Bitcoin and have like a Bitcoin leverage product.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, sky's the limit, really, because the protocol basically works for pretty much any token. The thing that would change is basically sort of if you had something like Wrap Bitcoin, sort of like how the rebalance pool, because how that would work in terms of the incentives for the stablecoin like product. But I mean, you could utilize Wrap Bitcoin. I mean, you could utilize
like a Konigami pool if they relaunch.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. And so so there's it's a very flexible system. There's a lot of different opportunities for this to utilize, various types of tokens, or even, I mean, at some point you could even use like LP tokens or something like that. So especially because they have the emissions from them as well. So
So is there no decay on the XETH? Like if I buy it, it's just it forever? Or like what sort of, because typically when you're like long like this, you're paying some sort of fee.
Right. There is no fee. There is no fee that you pay for XETH. It just exists to absorb the volatility from the price action of ETH. So
Well, I guess you're swapping your staked ETH for the XETH. So you're giving up your yield in return for leverage.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So you're still paying like 5% or something, or whatever Seth is, right?
You can mint XETH, but the rewards from stETH go to the rebalance pool. So XETH never has to pay any sort of fees or anything like that.
Well, it's not like an explicit fee, but it's like an implicit fee on the yield, right? Like you deposit like 1 ETH, and then let's say over the next like year it gains like 5%. That 5% would go to the rebalance pool.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So it's like it's like implicit, but behind the scenes, you're essentially like you have a non-visible, non-transparent funding rate that's built into how the system works. But that's fine for like a non-liquidatable asset, right?
Yeah, I mean, well, everything's transparent about the protocol. You can check everything on chain. It's all open source. But yes, as you're saying, like essentially, it takes the yields that from that staked ETH, essentially all of them, whether you're minting FETH or XETH, go to the rebalance pool.
This would be a nice. So does your leverage, like, so if you buy at like, okay, so let's say the prices go down, everybody's getting out, and you buy like leverage at 5x, right? Does that mean your leverage is fixed at 5x, or is like when more FETH comes into the pool, your leverage is decreased at that point?
Correct. Yeah, the leverage is always fluctuating based on the ratio between the two tokens, FETH and XETH, and you can see there at the bottom it shows of those two boxes that you have on the screen there, the total supply of each one of them and the proportion that they make up of the total protocol. So your leverage on XETH will always be in fluctuation based on the relationship between those two tokens.
Kevin, who are the users that, in your mind, are going to use this product the most? Like, is this addressing retail most, other DAOs? Like, who can benefit how from using it, like on different sectors?
Yeah, I think it's going to be pretty interesting to see how it winds up being adopted. I think for the most part, it's going to be people that are pretty hardcore into DeFi at the moment. But as it becomes adopted, I mean, really, it can be utilized by anyone. I think it's for folks that are bullish ETH is probably something that's going to be a factor into it, as well as FETH basically has the ability to fluctuate. It's a floating stable coin, so I think it's for people that have a little bit more of an understanding of sort of like how that fits into DeFi, how it fits into their role in terms of their portfolio, or if you're a treasury, a DAO for a treasury for a DAO, then how that fits in as well. I mean, it's a stable coin that basically can earn staked ETH yields and single-sided staking. So it's pretty unique in that regard. And then for XETH, I kind of think that's going to be more of a wind up being a sort of a trading product. It'll be really interesting to see how that gets, how things maybe get built on top of that. So it's kind of hard to say right now, honestly, but I think sort of, the sky's the limit.
It's kind of
And are
funny
there
that.
Go ahead, Gerrit, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say it's kind of funny that we're in such a crab market that FETH is basically more stable than most stable coins at the moment.
Yeah.
Are there any plans to expand this kind of product to, for example, layer twos like Arbitrum, to other places where some different kind of actors and investors, maybe even smaller ones, can also benefit from such a project if it's not going to stay only on mainnet, or are currently the plans to just keep it on mainnet at least for the while?
So yeah, it's definitely always going to be on mainnet, but we are looking into expanding to layer twos as well. So that's currently active and underway right now.
Anything specific you want to share? Like any alpha in the building?
Yeah, I mean, well, I can share that. Yeah, I mean, like we're wide open on really L2s, and this will work really well in sort of like integrating into environments with low fees, because the fees to mint both of these are pretty low right now. And so as they get adopted on L2s, we expect to see, and other tokens as well get incorporated into FX, that it'll be pretty cool for to see how it gets integrated into sort of routing for aggregators and things like that. So, Arbitrum is definitely on the list. BNB, there's, like I said, the sky's the limit. So we'll see how it all kind of like winds up. But we're definitely sort of like have that in our sights, and we're looking into it. But we don't have an expected rollout for those. So just realize that those are on the radar. And but right now we're focused on mainnet and making sure that everything functions fine during our beta mode.
Good
Yeah,
stuff.
for sure. And I do think that a lot of the users that you described that can be interested in the product, many of them are probably active on L2, the ones who are really like D savvy and really want to experiment on kinds of stuff. I think there's great potential in expanding over there.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the goal, is to make sure that this gets adopted by folks. And right now we're sort of like in the education phase of sort of these are DeFi primitive products, and so people are kind of like having to learn on the fly. It's like, well, how the heck does XETH work, and why isn't FETH like pegged to $1, and what's this rebalance pool? And so it's a lot of just getting word out, trying to get people to understand the protocol and see how they can integrate it into their own personal strategies.
Well, that sounds pretty cool, and we're glad to see that there's new products coming out and people trying new things with different stablecoins. There was also a new meta that came out yesterday, and that's the Friends.tech, which launched on, Friend.tech, which launched on Base. It's a social invite-only social network that has seen significant volumes over the past 24 hours. Now, it was launched at like 7 a.m. yesterday. Started really to get traction around 7 o'clock yesterday, 8 o'clock. Since then, it's had over 100,000 transactions. It's distributed more than 184 ETH in protocol fees, and it's also burned a lot of ETH as well, too. So some of the biggest people who have been the referrers for Friend.tech have been Kobe, Gainsey, Sisyphus, and a bunch of other well-known crypto Twitter influencers.
All right, I got to ask you all. I've for the past like several months, since Elon has taken over Twitter, basically, it's been like new social networks popping up, and I've resisted joining like nearly all of them. Mastodon, Farcaster, there's thousands of them. Is this one worth joining, or should I like wait for the fad to subside?
Probably wait. I think wait. I don't think.
Also, I think it's a matter of like culture and age and stuff like that. Because I've seen like yesterday, the timeline was full of this Friends.tech. Like I've never heard of it before, and it was like all over the timeline yesterday. But also, to be honest, me personally, I don't even use a wallet on my phone, and I saw that it's just a phone app anyway now. So I didn't join, not just to experiment. And I can understand Sam's not jumping in too early, although it does seem like quite a party over there.
Yeah. So we've seen a bunch of different social networks get launched over the past few years in crypto land.
Most Fred's doing.
Yeah. The biggest one being Lens, which is more than a social network. It's got a bunch of other additions on that we've talked about in previous episodes. And time will tell whether this one has any sticking power. Obviously, the first day gives it a lot of hype. People sign up. A lot of these crypto Twitter influencers are making huge amounts of money in a couple of days. But as Mark Zeller says in a post, in 2 weeks, nobody's going to be talking about Friend.tech. But ETH burn from transactions interacting with this stuff will stay burned forever. Spend your hard-earned ETH on left curve stuff or stake it. Your choice, Anon. And then Mike Dudas from said that it's starting to sound like a Bitcoiner, to be honest. Have a little fun, try new stuff. If it doesn't work, you at least have an idea. Why not? But it is putting a lot of money back to some well-known crypto Twitter influencers who probably don't need your money in the first.
I think it's really an important aspect within the community, and I think the community is slowly growing. And all this stuff is pretty much how people just they find it to be like fun and laughs and adventurous, and it does actually become good marketing for us in the long run, I think, because it just makes some extra people hear about stuff, and it gives the people that are involved a chance to play. Of course, there's risks like with using, but I don't know, at least personally to me, I can't say that anything seems malicious over there to me. Just seems like, another attempt at something. Who knows how much it's actually going to grab attention beyond the next 48 hours. But you never know.
It feels like everything in DeFi has turned into some sort of a casino at the moment. So everyone's trying to like jump on how they can make a quick $100 or something like that.
Yeah.
Next
So we'll
Rollbit.
see.
Yeah.
Well, no, Rollbit's like really gotten traction, guys. I mean, they're beyond that stage now. Rollbit's really, really seen a massive amount of growth, and we have actually a bunch of dashboards now that are tracking the Rollbit buyback and burn. Just to look yesterday, I mean, Rollbit is essentially burning every single hour. They're burning about $25,000 to $50,000 worth of RLB. So far they've burnt 12 million RLB, and that number is going to continue to grow as people continue to use their platform. But the meta for this cycle, at least in this bear cycle, is revenue generating platforms. We've seen a bunch of different ones come out. Unibot, Rollbit. There's a couple of microcaps that I saw yesterday starting to announce big distributions back to their holders. And when prices are down like this and nobody wants to get levered long to push something up 100x, 200x, then revenues start to really matter. And this will probably continue until the money starts to flow back in. Let's see. We also had a story from
the fairest way to go, in my opinion, the revenue distributing models. Definitely the models I'm most interested in.
Yeah. So Aave this morning finished up a vote to, let's see, they're going to use $2 million worth of AUST to go out and buy CRV. So I'm guessing they brokered a deal with Michael to buy at 60 cents. And, we talked about this the other week where this might not be a 40 cents.
That's usually what the OTC deal's been, 40 cents, not 60
Oh,
cents.
right. Okay.
60 cents is the current crab price.
Yeah, that's right. 40 cents. But does it make sense? We talked about this last week. Like, does it really make sense for them to get even more CRV exposure when they have so much already in the form of potential bad debt that they would receive if Michael was liquidated?
Well, maybe they don't think it's actually likely he gets liquidated.
At this point, apparently not. So, he's raised what, $58 million, $60 million from OTC sales.
Yeah, and he's got a 5-year track record of not getting liquidated. So they're probably looking at this the other way. They're like, how can we get our hands on some of this curve?
Exactly. And they would use it to most likely incentivize their Go Stash or their Go stablecoin, which just launched and has made a bit of a splash on Balancer, but is still growing on Curve and needs more incentives to really see good influx of liquidity.
Yeah, I'd actually say the incentives are there on Curve. I'm trying to pull up the pool right now. It's doing pretty good. It's getting what is it? 27% boosted rewards. So it's like, I'd take that.
How much TVL?
TVL still just 188K. So it's like a real big opportunity. But if you look at the token price, it's been trading just like 98 cents, kind of dipped as low as 97.5 cents. And you could definitely see, like, right out of the gate, there was all sorts of FUD about, oh my gosh, Go's not like actually going to keep peg. But they haven't launched their like equivalent of the Frax AMO yet. So they are planning on having like a price stability module that gets added in later. So I actually think I'm pretty bullish on Go. So I would just be like, let me take this at a discount and right now and count on an eventual repeg. Because I'm like, betting against Aave is not a bright solution in my opinion.
Oh, and their A value on the pool is actually quite low. It's only 100. And look, until this pool has several $1 million in it, I don't want to make any assumptions about it. Like $188,000 in total TVL is nothing, and an A value of 100 is also nothing as well too. So I wonder why they chose that value of 100, because that means that the pool gets imbalanced really easily.
Yeah, I don't know. Actually, I think that this is launched by Mitch, is my guess. I think Mitch just kind of picked some parameters and tossed it out there because he really wants some Go liquidity.
Chemist, did you have something?
No, I was just going to say it is a stable swap pool. It's not like a V2 or anything like that, right?
Yeah, it is a stable swap pool, but the A value is low on this one, so
Right.
It doesn't allow the pool to get imbalanced. Right now, I think the split there was like 75-25 for Go to CRV USD, and that was pushing the price off by like 2 cents. That shouldn't really happen, honestly. Like I would expect the A value of that to, for those listening, the A value essentially determines like the flatness of the curve within the parameters, and it allows the pool to get more imbalanced without going off peg. If you look at the Frax pools, I believe they have an A value of like 1200, and so if a Frax stable pool gets to like 80-20, it's still on peg, and it doesn't start to move. These tighter A values just shift the price off a lot quicker. Yeah.
Yeah. The classic examples is MIM, where the MIM pool is about 85% imbalanced towards MIM, and yet the price is very, very close to 1. So it's like scarcely depegged at all.
Yeah, they have an A value of 2000. So that's, but the idea here is that like MIM and Go are both CDP style currencies where people are typically like minting them as debt and then selling it to get leverage up. And so in these LPs, you're going to find it imbalanced quite often because people just dump it and they're buying something else. So an imbalance in the MIM pool doesn't actually mean that the protocol is unhealthy.
Yeah, and once the pool is launched, the A factor is only changeable by the DAO. So essentially, the DAO gets to kind of look over the risk factors and say, all right, we think that we're willing to bet extensively on a MIM or a Go repeg. So we're willing to basically allow the pool to get imbalanced. So now that's been launched, it's going to be up to the Curve DAO. But I couldn't imagine that they're not going to, like, at some point, once Go gets like its AMO price stability module, like start like being willing to take bigger bets on it.
Yeah, we also had another announcement from Coinbase Ventures, who said that they had purchased, I believe, $2 million worth of RPL. So I guess that Coinbase is running Rocket Pool nodes, and they are making this RPL purchase to better support their infrastructure.
Yeah, I believe they're part of the Rocket Pool Oracle DAO, and they have been for a while. So they're pretty well integrated into Rocket Pool.
And did that Oracle DAO, did the ODAO vote actually pass to reduce emissions by like 90%?
I haven't been following it closely. I know that they've proposed it, but I couldn't tell you.
So until we were able to secure him on the show, it's worth pointing out the criticism from Chris Black, who pointed out that Coinbase has also been getting paid about $250K to $500K per year. So it's some interesting. This is how a lot of these deals work, right?
Paid by who?
Yeah, it'll be interesting.
What does it mean? Paid by Rocket Pool? What does it mean?
So they run validators for the Oracle network for Rocket Pool, and so those are basically the RPL emissions is the payout for running those validators.
Yeah. So we will see Coinbase. Coinbase is one of the ODAO people. So Win, Leviathan, ETH Pool, and Curve. I'm sure somebody will make it. Let's see what else we got. Oh yeah, we had a update on the story with Ind for ETH. He sent another batch of tokens off to the burn address. Give this guy some help. This time he sent $8 million worth of GLP and GMX off to the burn address. He also sent some NFTs as well too. And he had previously burned 2,500 Ether worth about 4.5 million. Obviously, he must be having some issues right now. I hope he gets some help.
Is this NapGener's account?
No. NapGener is too crazy to send off like that. But it's funny how NapGener has been the like the meta or like the narrative of CT. He's like carved himself a little hole on conspiracy Twitter.
He blocked me, which is quite a shame. I actually really enjoyed his account.
What did you say to him?
I didn't say anything. Like, I've only said nice things about him. Then at some point he unblocked me, so I refollowed him, and then he blocked me again.
He probably just doesn't want to see like curve news. He's probably short curve or something, and you're too bullish about everything.
It's bad sickness to have in a bear market to be turbo bullish and everything.
There's only 12 of us left in DeFi. I mean, if you block somebody, there's not much left to follow. So
we also had news from Visa yesterday, where they put out a thought leadership paper about paying blockchain gas fees with card. And this kind of wraps in a bunch of the ideas that have come out recently about account abstraction. And Visa wants to transform the global money system using blockchain somehow. And so they have a blockchain team, actually. I've reached out to them to come on the show, but I'm sure they're just heads down in research. And they're messing around with some ideas around account abstraction, where a user could have a wallet and also interact with their Visa card with through on-chain and off-chain systems, where money that they have in their self-custodial wallet could be spent by the Visa system. So here we have a simplified user interaction where a user places an order for $200. And so they initiate a transaction to the blockchain, choose which Visa card gets for gas fees payment. And then the transaction gets confirmed, payment goes to the merchant's wallet. And so Visa essentially becomes the person who pays for the fees to facilitate this transaction. It's really interesting, actually, that Visa's like looking at this in depth and acting as a paymaster for these like L2s into the future. Because you would assume that Visa is going to make a step into like Arbitrum or Optimism or somewhere so that they can facilitate these kinds of transactions, because they make a lot of sense, right? Like they have really good there's no friction about it, right? Like the settlement is instant and the fees are determined. It's very cool.
So I think the question I have about this is paying in dollars, right? Like you use dollars to pay for.
Yeah, it's essentially like I have money in my custodial wallet, right? And what I do, or my self-custody wallet, and using the Visa system, I pay them to pay the gas, and they become a paymaster. So in the account abstraction system, you essentially like authorize somebody else to make the transaction for you. So you set up the transaction and somebody else can execute it. And what Visa's talking about is having like off-chain fees paid. So you pay that like 50 cents in ETH on Arbitrum or Base or wherever, and then Visa executes the transaction for you. And so like if you have USDC on Base and you want to spend it, but you don't have any ETH, Visa will come in and make that payment for you so that you can make that transaction.
So I guess my question about this is like similar to the one I had with Dinero. It just seems so natural to me to pay gas with ETH or like whatever the native account token of the chain is, whereas paying with dollars just doesn't quite seem like a use case that like makes sense to me. I don't know. Maybe I'm weird.
No, I mean, it makes sense. I mean, like with all this account abstraction stuff, everything is just going to get moved outwards and you won't even notice that you're making these transactions. So like all of this, think of like all the gas handling just moving to a third-party service.
I guess for my sake, like I like kind of like write off the gas costs in my mind because it's just ETH, and usually I'm trading things into and out of ETH. So like, you know, hopefully I get more ETH. But that's because I like denominate everything in ETH, like, and I just don't denominate things in dollars. So I don't know.
it's kind of fascinating how, in the future that basically Ethereum gas is basically going to be sort of an archaic concept almost, that The only people that'll have to know about it are somebody that's extremely deep into the financial system and the plumbing of these things, and most normal people will that will never be a concept that they ever even have to broach.
Yeah, it's true. That's true. So I guess it's just because I'm too degen.
You've gone through the looking glass.
But yeah, it's true. Like no one knows what like the fee for like using the Swift like might be, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, you don't pay that. That just gets. I mean, we don't see the fees that Visa charges the merchants, right?
You kind of do in the minimum prices, but only if you're really super paying attention.
Yeah, but you don't know, like when you go into a merchant, you don't know how much they're paying. Some are paying 1.5%, some are paying like 4%, 5%. There's a huge disparity between merchant fees based on the type of business that somebody's in.
Yeah, I feel like you just notice it if you have like an Amex card and you're just like, oh, that's weird. Like this place doesn't take Amex or below a certain minimum or whatever.
Or just credit cards in general.
Yeah.
That's actually an interesting point you bring up, Sam, is like merchants, the fees that they pay on these credit card services. I'm curious to know, and obviously I don't know anything about credit card services or setting that up, but I'm curious if they know if merchants know what other merchants are paying on that. And of course, now that it's being moved on chain, if that'll bring transparency to it, or how that will come about, sort of like equalizing sort of the nature of those things.
From what I understand, the risk teams at Visa and MasterCard use their wide database of transactional data to determine risk levels for different industries and also regions as well too. And so, based on where you live and what business you have, they can automatically say like, the fees that we need to charge you are like 2.5%. And because it all comes down to how many chargebacks there are, what the risk to Visa is, and so they just build that into the price plus their profits as well too. But it is kind of a little weird that Visa and MasterCard essentially like take 2.5% off the top of the American economy through all this transaction, right? That we've moved away from cash and we've implemented this strange fee system into these private companies that it just has reaped them billions and billions of dollars. With stablecoins, though, potentially we have we could get rid of those fees. I mean, credit is not going to go away, obviously, but if we start paying with USDC again for everything, for one thing, the transaction costs are fixed at like, whatever the L2 or network that's being used is. And then in addition to that, you could build smart contracts that handle chargebacks, right? And then you don't have to have such a complex apparatus of risk managers running at Visa who deal with these things. Yeah, because like most of the issue with these credit card companies is that they take the risk of the purchase, and you don't actually, like when you buy something, when you buy something with a credit card versus buying it with like a debit card, like if you buy it with a credit card and you say like, oh, this person scammed me, the Visa will just go back and recoup that money and you don't have to worry about it. But if it's your debit card, then you have to go through the bank. The bank has to try to get that money back for you. It's a very long and difficult process.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how those things get integrated into Visa's overall strategy over the next 5-10 years.
And also like the high risk industries that would be best suited for stablecoins. So like the marijuana industry, anything having to do with crypto, or I don't know what other high risk stuff there is inside the United States.
Assassination markets, drugs.
No, not those, not illegal ones, but just high risk industries.
Trading U.S. Treasury bonds.
Yeah, right. Those would potentially have their fees reduced, which would hopefully grow the economy even more, because you don't want this free rider that Visa and MasterCard are on top for providing a simple technological service.
These companies are going to use the very same infrastructure we're talking about
Hold on,
about themselves.
DefiAdvisoor, we can't hear you.
to,
You're breaking up. Hold on, DefiAdvisoor, you're breaking up too much. I'm just gonna put you here. It's way too. The connection was very bad. So last story that we have for today is that Coinbase's base network has just been flying. So activity on the network has skyrocketed. TVL is skyrocketing, and this Friends.tech thing is really it's just one of the many apps and assets that's bringing people over to come try Coinbase's new network.
I'm curious, are people going over there? I mean, are there like a lot of like DeFi opportunities on Base right now? Or I'm curious, I don't know, sort of like the migration of places like Uniswap or a Curve or Balancer or anything like that has gone over there. I'm not familiar with it. I haven't played around on Base yet, so.
Nor have I. I like to LARP as a whale, even though I'm not, so I only go on mainnet.
Yeah, I like spending expensive gas. Occasionally, I'll get on Arbitrum, and I mess around on Arbitrum. I have a few positions on Arbitrum with like Plutus DAO and stuff. But Base, I have yet to experiment on, but it's been pretty impressive. Sort of the amount of adoption that they brought, especially in this market, and so I'm kind of curious if it's just sort of like these one-off things like Friends.tech or I think there was another one like a week or two ago or maybe like a couple weeks ago that came out that brought some adoption on there. But I'm just kind of curious. I don't know from sort of DeFi lending markets or liquidity pools, kind of what that's looking like. And but it sounds like it's a hopping place.
Yeah, I gotta say, like I also like, even though I haven't used much Base, like I'm super bullish on the Base like L2 just generally. If you haven't been paying attention to crypto for the last year, like Coinbase has really proven that like when this entire industry like went through like the trenches, like Coinbase is there to lead things. So I've just been super impressed by like what Armstrong has built, like what the team that he's put together, the culture around like everything going on at Coinbase, and the fact that they deployed this at the same time as they were like also like fighting off the SEC with their other hand. Very impressive stuff.
Yeah, I actually Coinbase for the longest time, I kept waiting for them to sort of integrate L2s like Arbitrum and Optimism, and just kind of waiting, and it seemed like they kind of were taking their time to do it. And I guess that this is sort of like why it was taking so long. And now that they've done it, it's just full speed ahead. So it's I think for the industry as a whole, obviously it's fantastic, and it's good to see sort of Coinbase kind of finally plant their flag on the Ethereum ecosystem.
Yeah, I don't really dabble in traditional finance too much, but the coin token, how's that been doing? Not token, coin stock.
It's been doing all right.
Yeah.
I think it rallied 100% off the lows, and it is. I don't know. I mean, if you like Coinbase, it's probably a fine time to buy. I mean, it's still trading at 82, which it was trading at back in May of the last year. So it's it's been going up and down. It's a stock.
Yeah, I'm curious to know because as you've seen, like with the Nasdaq and the S&P 500, basically the stock market right now is 8 companies, and everything else has kind of been going sideways with all the these FANG companies and whatnot. And I'd be curious to know. I'm like Gerrit. I don't really follow the stock market that much, but I'd be curious to know sort of like how coin is performing in relation to some of those like Nvidia or something like that right now. So it's interesting.
Well, that's all we have for today. We'll be back actually next week because today is Friday. So Kemetz, thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me, guys. I enjoyed being here. This was fun.
Mm-hmm. And thank you to everybody at home who's watching us. Really enjoyed tuning in. And we will see you next week.
Bye, everybody.